we have a standing challenge that if some of these people can actually match what they say their performance is, call us and we will walk you into the offices of Goldman Sachs. We'll write you your $250 million check for your system.
The advice provided on this podcast is general advice only. All statements made are considered by the participants to be accurate, but accuracy cannot be guaranteed. It has been prepared without taking into account your objectives, financial situations, or needs. All participants in this podcast, including guests, may have a financial interest in any or all of the products or services mentioned. Before acting on this advice, you should consider the appropriateness of the advice, having regard to your own objectives, financial situations, and needs. If any private products are detailed on this podcast, you should obtain a product disclosure statement relating to the products and consider its contents before making any decisions. Where quoted, past performance is not indicative of future results.
Welcome to the Money Path Podcast with your hosts, Bob Iacchino and Mike Arnold, founders of Path Trading Partners. Today's What and the Why is sponsored by MotiveWave. Go to pathtradingpartners.com and download your 14-day free trial. So let's join Bob and Mike with a casual conversation of news and the markets.
Let's do this. Who cares?
What do you mean, who cares?
Let's just open it up. Who cares?
Well, we have the administration blocking Broadcom's bid for Qualcomm. We talked about that in the past, so that's done. And
that's taken care of. We don't have to worry about that anymore.
Yeah. So Broadcom can't buy Qualcomm out of national security concerns. So that is not going to happen. And then we had the Theranos. Boy, the SEC really came down hard on Theranos, didn't they?
Yes, they did. It's like a slap on the wrist.
Barely. I mean, what, a $500,000 penalty and got to turn in your worthless shares, and you can't be what's her name? Holmes can't be a public officer of a company for 10 years.
Isn't she like 28?
Yeah. For all the damage that was caused by that, I mean, $500,000 fine. Come on, they raised like how many? They at one point had a $9 billion valuation.
Right.
Oh, come on! I mean, the SEC's got no teeth. They've got no teeth. Oh, and then another.
She's 34 years old. So she can be a CEO at 44, which is young for a CEO.
Yep.
Don't get me started.
And other important news, we have Chipotle, no more chief marketing officer. I guess their queso turnaround did not turn it around.
Yeah, I'm still baffled. I'm really baffled by the decline of Chipotle as a business. I just don't understand it. I mean, I do understand it. People just kind of lost their appetite, and I guess the kind of thing that affected Chipotle stays with people, I guess. I mean, Mike, how many times have you stopped me from buying that stock now?
A bunch.
A bunch.
I mean, we could be forming a basing pattern now, but this is we're about to hit. We're trading just below the 200-day moving average on the daily chart. It'd have to get above that. It really has to get back above 350 and then retest that level for me to be interested in, because it's just languishing, and there's so many gaps left behind on this stock. There's a massive gap to the downside again. So I could easily see if this breaks down, it could easily test 250 again.
Yeah, and I mean, they've got great food quality. They've got a great business model. They're extremely efficient in terms of their cost of labor and cost of their food costs and everything. But at the end of the day, if people have a reason that they believe for not coming in the doors, none of that matters.
Yeah, and my reason
just doesn't matter.
Is they put rice in a burrito. That was the first red flag.
Well, they got to fill it with something cheap.
I never have rice in my burrito. I always have the burrito bowl, and I just say, give me the beans. Give me both kinds of beans. Just pile on those beans, baby.
And no rice.
I'm all about the beans and no rice. I do not want that rice touching my burrito stuffing. So that's how I roll at Chipotle. But the Chipotle near me is like it's never busy. You can go in there
It's
at 12:30
crazy.
and there's like one person in line. I'm like,
crazy.
whoa, it's nuts.
It's crazy.
So it's crazy,
Anyway.
and the queso dip just didn't turn it around.
Yeah, I mean
queso
that was a big marketing campaign.
When you can't turn it around with queso, what can you do? You know what you can do if you're Dropbox? You can file for IPO.
You can file an IPO through Brock.
Share IPO sees pricing $16 to $18 a share, resulting in a valuation between $7 and $7.9 billion.
Wow, that's good. Dropbox is a phenomenal company.
All the intellectual property they have stored on their servers are worth more than that, in my opinion.
Right? They've become, like sort of for some companies, they're the entire back office system is Dropbox.
So
they're now signing $1 million deals with companies just for storage like that. It's crazy.
I wonder how that IPO will do, whether that valuation is in line. I'll have to do some more research. But it would be, so we'll have to see. I mean, I'm more interested in that than things like Snapchat and Blue Apron. And by the way, where's Blue Apron? Oh, Blue Apron set a new low this week. $199. $199 from IPOing at 10, so it's lost 80% of its value.
199?
No. Divide 199 and move your decimal over 2 to the left, $1.99. So from 10 trading to a high of 11, the mighty have fallen, $1.99, and that's painful. That's painful. That's all I have to say. And it might be every time it forms a little bottoming pattern, you just don't want to go against the rotation zone on this one, because every time it tries to rally in the rotation zone, it's like sell, sell, sell. Speaking of seller, what's going on in Stafford? You have first the Wild West, then the robber barons. Now here come the lawbringers. What's going on in the fraudulent crypto space?
So I'm sure everybody knows, even people who are not in trading in the crypto space, is that BitConnect was shut down by the SEC.
Thank God.
Exactly. And they were basically selling securities. So now South Carolina has claimed that one of the largest mining contracts, which means that you don't own the computers to do the computer calculations, the mathematics to make the cryptocurrency, to make the Bitcoin, to make the Ethereum. You basically buy a contract for 30, 60, 90 days for a computer you don't own, and they say, oh, you have this much computing power, and now you're going to get like a guaranteed dividend. Okay, well, that sounds like a security. Wow. So now South Carolina has said Genesis Mining, but we can just say all of these cloud mining services are now under the microscope from the SEC, and I think that's the next level of what needs to be done to get the scum out of the pool. So I think the Wild West was where crypto truly was madness. Then the robber barons are these BitConnects or these the lending platforms, these cloud mining platforms. And so now I think we truly are in the third stage where the law bringers are now coming in. Now, there's nothing to worry about trading crypto as long as you're on a legitimate exchange. And maybe if you're in an exchange that's in the United States, that gives you a little bit more comfort because they will comply much faster if they're out of compliance. And
we talked about that last week in the podcast about what the SEC was warning about that.
But these mysterious, you give me all your money and then I'll give it back to you in 90 days. But in between there, I'm going to guarantee you a certain percentage profits. But then, of course, the company will go out of business in 60 days. And you'll never be a return on investment. So I think it's just a good thing. The lawbringers are here as long as we all can hold our bags if we got them or cover your butt and stop out. But I think this is all good for what will be legitimate and safe crypto down the road.
Legitimate and safe crypto. Well, Google.
So that's something that just, Mike, before you go into that, this is, because then this will relate to that, this is all good stuff for the longer term viability of the altcoins and the digital tokens that are legitimate. So Stafford made that point in the beginning of his little informative speech there. And something like what Mike's about to talk about with Google, same thing. When you get regulation and you get sort of this cleaning of the scum from the pool, that's really good for the long stuff.
Yeah, Google's now banning, I don't know why they're taking it till June, but in June, Google will ban cryptocurrency ads. So
it takes that long because actually ad agencies buy blocks of ads and they have a contract that have to run out, no doubt.
Well, there you go. So starting in June, Google will no longer host advertisements promoting cryptocurrencies, exchanges, wallets, and firms providing advice as well as initial coin offerings. So we can't advertise our channel on Google then.
Supposedly, though, forex and binary options are also going to be out of the mix.
It's unfortunate.
I mean, they'll come back once all the scum's out, no doubt, because that's straight up by the book.
Yeah. I mean, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, because I could. Well, I mean, at least in this country, binary options. I mean, you've got Nadex, right, and they're fully regulated and legitimate. And then FX. I remember when that was the Wild West years ago, but the swamp was drained in the FX world years ago.
Right.
So,
right.
Especially in this country. I mean.
Yeah, FX in the U.S. is dead, and again, that's something that I see as a shame because that's something where the product was punished, the market was punished for bad actors, and they didn't go after the bad actors. They just sort of labeled it as the market. In other words, if you banned Stafford, what's your most hated American car? What car brand do you not like? It doesn't have to be American.
Tesla.
All right. That's if you ban Tesla because their mechanics were all bad. You said we're just going to get rid of the cars because the mechanics keep telling you need new tires when all you really needed was one more lug nut. So that's what they did is they started just banning currency trading when all it was bad actors using currencies as their vehicle to scam people out of money. So they just banned the vehicle. That's not right.
Was there ever a youth market that was really engaged in how FX would change the world and the monetary system? That's different than crypto. There is a sense...
Yeah, but it's the same in that it's bad actors using something that's legitimate to steal people's money.
Right. Gotcha.
The FX people were targeting the elderly, which was, by some arguments, worse.
Oh, yeah.
Well, again, it was all the get-rich-quick stuff, get rich with the bot trading the Japanese yen. And all you have to do is buy the $99 bot and put your money in the account, and the bot's going to trade it, and you're going to be, the millionaire, or you're going to have your retirement money. But and then, that bot worked for about 2 weeks. Well, we got a new bot for you. And
yep.
So, we've had a pretty decent sell-off in the cryptos also in the past little bit. Mm-hmm. So, what are we down to? We triggered also, I put this out on the channel, we did trigger a massive double top pattern on Bitcoin.
There's a target on that around 70-something, 7,300. Where's the target on that?
First target, the major target, 7,400.
All right, that's what I thought. Did it 76?
76.65 on the stuff I use for my charting on. So, but now we're just pausing. I'm going to see what happens when the rotation zone comes down to hit it on the daily. The rotation zone is trading right now about 8,800, the top of it, and it's declining. So, the big trigger event is generally when those two, when the 8 EMA hits the price action. Mm-hmm. That's next time that's going to happen sometime next week. We'll see if we push down to hit these full targets.
Hey, Mike, quick question I've not seen. Is Doge resilient in this market? I would think it would be because it's a satire and a meme.
Doge has been selling off too. It's down.
What's Dogecoin been doing?
It's back to being single. Yeah, Doge is trading against its rotation zone and dropping slowly. It's now below its 200 a day simple moving average, which has been critical support for it in the past. So there's not much that has not been affected. Even NEM at XEM has.
That's the Japanese one, right?
That's the one they're sort of competing with Ethereum for, you could build your own platform on it. That had a huge run up last week, and now it's been slammed back down to essentially where it was before it broke out. So it's trading 0.3519 again after running up all the way to nearly 0.5569. So it had a big run up. Remember, we talked about companies sort of jumping from Ethereum over to the XEM because it was cheaper.
Yep.
But that isn't right? Even that. Yeah, and faster. But that hasn't even been able to sustain that up move. Now it hasn't broken to new lows that were put in on the 8th, but it's retraced over 50% of the move. It's actually retraced 75% of its big up move last week. So nothing's escaping. That's the other thing. That's the one thing I don't like. It's like in the crypto space, so many things trade in lockstep. It's almost like there's a one set of algos trading nearly every coin. I mean, you see patterns, and it's like, okay, same pattern, and it's just a degree of, so you can judge relative strength. Some you can see that's really benefit when you see all these patterns, which ones hold up better, which ones fall faster, and again, the ones that fall faster, triggering the same essential patterns, those are the ones you really don't want to rush in and buy.
Mm-hmm. How really good do you have to be to snipe at this bear market at this point?
That's why it's why we've talked about on the channel recently. At this point, stand aside and wait for, and again, it's not sniping it. I put out a couple things on a 1 hour chart, which was about as low as I go. But again, you're trading against the key rotation zones on the daily and the 4 hour. So you just have to wait for the larger high probability patterns, like maybe a double bottom on a 4 hour or daily chart to come in. And then you that's the only time that we're looking to really buy something or a blow off bottom. Otherwise I would not be trying to pick a bottom in this, just especially on the shorter term charts.
Yeah, we have Mike, have our whole stance on this right now is selling rallies as of now, right? I mean, the rotation zone's flattened out a little bit.
Well, the rotation zone on which one?
Well, I'm looking at Bitcoin. Yeah, I'm sorry.
I mean, the daily. Yeah, the 4 hour we're forming sort of a little horizontal channel on the 4 hour, but if this rallies up to 8,500, if anybody did any buys in here, that's either move up your stops abruptly or take some profits off, because we could again easily drop down once the rotation zone comes into play on the bottom. There was what was that on the other day, what was that, on the 15th, there was a nice little double bottom, and I put that out on the channel on the 1 hour chart. That hit target, but that's about, when you say snipe the market, are you in and out? I mean,
that's what other people say, so it's not, I don't know, that's a word that the internet uses. What's the correct term?
Well, I don't even know what maybe somebody's listening to us live, Bob, because remember I just said
things just started moving.
Could jump up to 8,500. It just jumped 300 points to 8,500. All right, who's eavesdropping?
Yeah, I know, right? Someone's
just hit the top of the rotation zone on the 4 hour. That was sort of funny. So that's in crypto news. It's right now is being patient. Because all these people who've tried to buy every dip, they just get slaughtered, because they hodl. They turn a tradle into a hodl, and because
tradle into a hodl.
I love it when you say that on television, Bob. That is so hilarious.
Turn a tradle into a hodl. I might do it today.
You're throwing out hodl like it's just regular nomenclature. It's cool.
Yeah, so that's about all I have in the crypto space. Is be patient. You're going to set up. I'd rather see these bigger buying setups like on a daily chart before rushing back in. If you're not nimble, because again, you could be you have to be very nimble if you're trying to pick a bottom. And at this point, picking a bottom is not for just your average person.
Yeah.
That's why we wait for high probability setups at key locations, and we're just patient for them.
Yep.
By the way,
yes.
Coming to a front porch near you, package delivery via drone. Federal authorities promise unmanned aircraft proponents will help you get there. Now, so let's see. The government's now starting to allow proper testing of drones in this country for package delivery. Remember, like Amazon and everybody had to shift to the UK and everywhere else in New Zealand because they were allowed testing, and here we're like, no, you can't do it. Well, now the FAA is going to get behind testing it in this country. Quote, they might be ready to operate by this summer. Jay Merkel, a senior FAA air traffic control official. At least 10 FAA-approved pilot programs for various drone initiatives have been approved.
Has anyone addressed the noise pollution that these drones create?
Do they create noise?
Oh my gosh!
Are they loud?
The decibels is insanely loud.
It's like a weed whacker on steroids. Some of the bigger ones, some of the commercial ones, they are pretty loud. So that'll be the next thing. You know how they banned leaf blowers, in some areas?
Yeah.
You can't use the gas leaf blower because of the noise. Well, wait till you have Amazon drones flying all over your neighborhood. That's where we should invest. We should invest in a noise cancellation headphone company because that's going to be the next thing. But drones are going to get official backing in this country to be able to be tested. So that was very interesting.
So in relation to the Amazon thing, did you see Walmart is in talks to buy a minority stake in Flipkart, which is basically India's largest online shopping platform? So the Walmart targeting Amazon battle continues. If they buy it, they'll right away jump into one of the largest. Well, they'll be a minority owner in the largest online marketplace in one of the largest, most populous countries in the world.
What was other Walmart news this week? There was something out there with. Oh, what was that? I forget. It's not in my show notes. Walmart. There's something about. Let's see. News. Where's my news for Walmart? Yeah, there.
To take a detour, Toys R Us out of business.
Yeah, Toys R Us is closing every store. Here we go. A former Walmart executive's lawsuit claims that markets are open. A former Walmart executive lawsuit claims the retailer has been inflating e-commerce growth numbers. So there's a big whistleblower thing with a former executive saying they're sort of juicing their e-commerce numbers. So we'll have to see. That's the stock got hit on that, but it bounced back. It went down to 86. Right now, it's interesting. It's trading right at its 200-day simple moving average, critical thing, and you got the declining rotation zone coming into it. So. I mean, it sliced through. I said it would fill the gap. We talked about this a while ago. Where's my? Why can't my point? I was think or swim. So we'll have to see. That's the stock got hit on that, but it bounced back. It went down to 86. Right now, it's interesting. It's trading right at its 200-day simple moving average, critical thing, and you got the declining rotation zone coming into it. So,
new updates coming on Thinkorswim this weekend. I wish they would stop doing that.
They've destroyed They destroyed it. There, it just crashed. What the?
Just as you're doing that, Mike, I just got a headline from CNBC on my phone that says U.S. stocks open slightly higher despite White House turmoil rumbling on. I want to just tell everyone who listens to us that this is very similar to initially when terrorism first hit U.S. and the West, we would respond dramatically to terrorism. Then we would get earnings numbers, and they were still good. And then the next terrorism bout, we would drop dramatically again. And then we'd get earnings, and things would still be good. And then the next terrorist attack, slightly lower. Then the next one, slightly lower. And then eventually, small acts of terrorism. By small, I mean things like the Paris concert shooting, okay, which was not small on a human level. They don't affect the markets anymore. Same thing is happening with what people call White House turmoil. This White House turmoil has no direct effect on your pocket. So the markets are not moving, but the I don't want to say the typical news media, because that's not what I'm doing here, but they think that White House turmoil is going to affect the bottom line. It just doesn't. So when you see those things, just ignore them. They're stupid.
That's your take. They're stupid.
It's almost my why, but it's not my why.
Oh, well, we don't want to get into that yet. Thinkorswim. Now I got my Thinkorswim, had to force quit it and restart it. I was looking for it to fill the 90 gap left behind at 91. It just sliced through that and then collapsed to its 200, which was the next target. But there's still no major buying pattern yet in Walmart. What's going on with AMD? AMD chips may have security flaws. Report says, we have talked about Intel's chips and everything else. The Israel-based cybersecurity firm CTS Labs says it found 13 critical security vulnerabilities and manufacturer backdoors in AMD's EPYC EPYC, Ryzen Pro, and Ryzen Mobile lines of processors. So we'll have to see if the stock really didn't take that big a hit off of it. And in other Stafford car company, Tesla, more financial executives have left. Tesla's corporate treasurer and vice president of finance quit to become the CFO of another company. So they lost their chief accounting officer, and now they've lost their corporate treasurer and vice president of finance. What is going on at Tesla?
Go ahead, Mike.
I mean, that they're losing executives left and right, and especially in the financial realm, which is not where you want to see a mass exodus of your top executives, especially with earnings coming out soon.
Well, notice there's fewer and fewer tweets about the cars and more tweets about getting to Mars.
Yes.
That actually rhymed, and I didn't mean that, but...
So Elon's been at the South by Southwest festival and talking about Mars and what kind of music he's going to play on his colony on Mars. So meanwhile, Tesla's like collapsing because, this came out this week. Tesla employees say automaker is churning out a high volume of flawed parts requiring costly rework. One current Tesla engineer estimated that 40% of the parts made or received at his Fremont factory require rework.
Awesome.
And they essentially, Elon admitted this, or Tesla admitted this week, that they actually shut down the line for about a week at the end of February. So we don't know what's going on with their Model 3s and everything else, but that'll be interesting. The stock's still $325.
Wow. The fanboys love that stuff.
Oh yeah, the fanboys do love the Tesla story. Here's something I thought was funny. It just came out this morning, a thing where Tesla cuts their Model X prices due to increased profitability. I'm thinking they cut their Model X prices because they can't sell them. It wasn't, but the fanboys always spin everything from Tesla. It's quite fascinating. Tesla, they're so profitable. Well, they're just lowering their prices. Well, they actually can't sell many of them.
And then the other notes, Tesla raised the price per hour kilowatt at their superchargers in almost all the states by 50%.
Yep. Yeah, they raised that.
So you can't say they're cheaper than gasoline. They're getting real close to the same thing.
Oh, this is interesting. Edmunds, the online car, they're pretty credible. But they said 100% of cars they had access to. 100% of Tesla's randomly chosen cars by Edmunds, subject to review, have had serious build quality issues. Talking about the Model 3.
It's not shocking. I mean, again, as these other we've said this a million times, as these other car companies like Mercedes and Volvo and BMW and all these guys come out with their electric cars, Tesla's in serious trouble. I want to like Tesla because it's an American car company, but just Elon is terrible car CEO.
Yeah, Elon shouldn't. I
should give up the job.
Yes, he should. That's all I have with corporate news, and we have to get some Tesla bashing in there. Now I feel like I can start the day. What else? Is there anything? I don't have anything in the U.S. economy segment this week.
Couple of things. CPI and PPI both showed very tame inflation. Inflation, nonetheless, prices are rising, but in a very, very tame and controllable way, much less than expected. So that didn't scare the Fed at all in terms of their direction on rates. It looks like the Fed is still. We've got a Fed meeting the 20th and 21st, and pretty much the entire market says that the rate hike on the 20th and 21st meeting is pretty much a done deal. Interestingly enough, after the CPI numbers, the probability in the Fed Watch tool went from 87 to 83, but now it's at 94 and a half. I've mentioned it's 94.4 as of yesterday, the probability of a rate hike in March. And I said it in the last podcast that it needs to be above 90% to be a guaranteed sure thing, and it's a guaranteed sure thing. So they're going to hike rates. We have to watch the commentary. That is now a permanent thing. People are like, what's more important, what they do with rates or the commentary? It's always the commentary now. Janet Yellen made it a point to improve communication between the Feds and the market. She was extremely successful. She got the message out to the markets what the Fed was going to do, and then they did it, whether it was directly from her lips or whether it's some proxy in the form of another Fed governor or an FOMC voting member or Fed president. Somebody always said pretty much what was going to happen. And Powell has committed to improving upon that, and he's a more blunt individual. So I think there's going to be some really interesting stuff in this statement. Now, having said all that, we just are not seeing inflation develop in any meaningful way. So it's going to be interesting how they explain that they're staying at 3. And still having potentially 4 rate hikes as an option, with March being the first one. And then lastly, I'll throw in with the economy, since we talked about the non-farm payrolls last week when the non-farm payrolls happened, is that China's holdings of U.S. Treasuries fell to the lowest level in 6 months. So that's kind of interesting because we've seen yields fall. Now, total foreign ownership fell also for a third month, but that was from a record high. And the net foreign buying of equities, U.S. equities, is the biggest since 2007. So that all points to slightly higher rates and continued bullish move for the stock market, if that was your only indicator, which it's not. So that's what I've got for the economy. And I've got a why I'd like to bring up.
Today's edition of The What and the Why is brought to you by MotiveWave Software. MotiveWave Software is a well-established developer of easy-to-use, full-featured charting, analysis, and trading software built for the individual trader. MotiveWave offers the best charting tools used by the pros, such as Elliott Wave, Fibonacci, Gartley, Gann and ratio analysis, but it's presented in a very easy-to-use way. MotiveWave has a product to fit any budget and any trading style, and one of the very best features, it's available on Windows and Mac. So go to pathtradingpartners.com right now to get your 14-day free trial, and then visit them at motivewave.com.
Go ahead.
And I call it the Larry Kudlow effect. So Gary Cohen left the White House to rave reviews, huge compliments, people saying they were going to miss him, including the president. I think that, it was viewed as some sort of scandal. It was not. He got the tax cut through. That was really what he wanted to happen. He'd been talking about leaving for months and months. So it wasn't that much of a surprise. However, when he left, it made Wall Street nervous, and it made the markets nervous because he was A, a strong dollar guy, B, a free trade guy, C, a low taxes guy, and D, he was much loved by Wall Street. Well, Gary Cohen got replaced by Gary Cohen, basically. They brought on Larry Kudlow, who is a low taxes, strong dollar, free trade, and loved by Wall Street. He also was part of the economic team in the Reagan White House not directly, but as an economist on a team of economists. So he worked in the Reagan White House. He's a former Democrat, and he's very friendly with both sides, an extremely nice human being. I've had some small interactions with him because he spent the last 17 years as both a show host and then a guest commentator on CNBC. So we've seen a lot of them. Very, very kind and gracious to people who are on the other side of the argument than him. And this is why I believe we're going to have a Larry Kudlow effect, because he's so kind and gracious and humble. And he was known in his younger days when he worked with Bill Clinton, by the way, on the Clinton campaign for governor of Arkansas. He is known as being kind of an economic genius, really, really smart. He didn't come across that way on TV because he's so nice and so gracious. So because he's nice and gracious, he's extremely good at working with an alpha personality like the president. This is my personal take on it. And he is a strong dollar guy. So the strong dollar guy is going to be able to get through to, well, I'm not saying that Trump is a weak dollar, but I've said before that I think Donald Trump and Steve Mnuchin have kind of a quiet weak dollar policy because they want the trade deficit to improve. And a weaker dollar will do that. Just without having more trade, you have a weaker dollar, you get more dollars in trade. So without having to improve the number of goods we sell, if the dollar gets weaker, the trade deficit improves, and then they can point to that as a success. But Kudlow is a strong dollar guy, and he's also extremely nice and humble. So I think he's going to work really, really well with the president. I think all of a sudden you're going to see the Larry Kudlow effect in the U.S. dollar. That's my why.
The Larry Kudlow effect in the U.S. dollar.
Yeah, I think the dollar is going to start to slowly turn around.
Well, remember we had the that double bottom that triggered, right?
We did, yeah. I haven't even brought that up, so that's great.
So just based off of that, this is so funny with technical analysis a lot of times where you get the pattern precedes the news.
Right.
We saw this in Monero.
What's our target on that, Mike? What's our target on that?
The high probability target is 92.16.
Okay. I'm saying that on CNBC today.
So what was interesting, I forgot to talk about in the crypto segment, but Monero was supposed to hard fork into Monero V at a 10-for-1 back on the 14th, and it was delayed to April 30th. People were requesting a delay because they weren't ready and everything, so they delayed it till April 30th. It's still going to hard fork, but what was interesting is a bunch of the chart patterns triggered for sell signals before that news came out.
Right.
You know, like we had the replacement you just talked about with Kudlow. Well, when was it triggered? That was triggered back on the technical trigger. If my Thinkorswim, which is broken again, it was triggered back on the 28th of February. That double bottom. So that's quite a bit of time ago. Do you have anything else, Bob?
Nope.
Well, what do you have coming up for the week, Bob? Why don't you run through either you guys see for the week, and I can cut that
in terms of what markets?
I don't know. Is there anything coming up?
Yeah, the Fed meeting is the 20th and the 21st. And again, I think we're going to see a little bit of fireworks, not necessarily on the statement, but if there's a press conference. I don't know if there's a press conference. Those are pre-scheduled. I believe there would be. And Powell is very straight up and blunt. I mean, he says things directly. He says words without parsing those words. For example, in his testimony to Congress, he said the market is not overheated. Well, the market went crazy, or inflation is not overheating. The market went crazy when he used the word overheating, because that was like a key word in several statements during the Greenspan era. Markets were watching for that word to be put in or taken out of the statement. So certain words, they're like psychological behavioral finance triggers for traders. Overheating is one of them. Powell doesn't care. So this is going to be a very fun Fed meeting. We hit most of the major economic news now is out of the way for this month. It's always the non-farm payrolls and then the week to 10 days after non-farm payrolls. Now we're going in toward the end of March, which is the end of the quarter, and we've got the rate hike coming, so things are going to start to quiet down after the rate hike.
Well, there we have it. Straight from Bob Iacchino's mouth.
Yep.
To your ears.
Yep.
And I'm getting too frustrated with Think or Swim right now, so.
All right. Well, thanks for having me, guys, again. I'm Bob Iacchino. Thanks for listening.
And I'm Mike Arnold. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.